people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this, set to go down next weekend on the undercard of the Dina Thorsland versus Shernika Johnson undisputed bantamweight title fight. Up-and-comer of Puerto Rico, Kroll Rosado, will be facing Mexico's own Alondria Mendoza, 21 years old, to Kroll, who's 23. Scheduled for 8 rounds in the women's bantamweight division, Kroll sports a professional record of 9 wins with 1 loss and no draws, 2 recorded knockouts, having never been knocked out in 10 professional bouts. Fighter that I'm very impressed with in spite of that lone defeat to Sherita Metcalf, if you even want to call it that. I saw that fight, and I scored that fight for Kroll. But Sherita Metcalf, the former champion, God bless her, she's got away with the judges, doesn't she? She's also set to appear on that same undercard. I wonder why MVP hasn't tried to put a rematch together between Kroll and Sherita. Instead, Kroll will be facing Alondria Mendoza, who sports a professional record of 11 wins with 2 losses and no draws, 2 recorded knockouts, having never been knocked out in 13 professional bouts, last in action in June of this year opposite the ring Kumura Amaya, who she won a majority decision against over 8 rounds. Currently on a 2-fight winning streak after having dropped a decision to Canada's own Amanda Gaye, who will also be boxing on that undercard. Her only other defeat came at the hands of another Canadian in the form of Alexis Kubicki, who also won a decision against her. With those things in mind, if Alexis can beat you and Amanda Gaye can beat you, I think Kroll Rosado can beat you. Kroll Rosado, who like Alondra, is currently on a 2-fight winning streak after having decision to Nia Walters and Fernanda Delgado in April of this year. This will be Kroll's 2nd fight of this year, leaving plenty of time to schedule a 3rd. Kroll. This is a bantamweight contest, meaning it's happening at the same weight as next weekend's undisputed title fight, though all things considered, I think Kroll's a ways out from challenging for a title. That is, I think Kroll's a ways out from being ready for either Shernika Johnson or Dina Thorsland. Both of those fighters, both 2-weight world champions, have a lot more experience than Kroll does, so irrespective of who wins the fight between them, they're gonna have all the belts in the division. Kroll's not ready for either of them. The look of this fight with Alondria looks like a developmental fight. To further Kroll Rosado's development, get her more rounds, get her more experience. I don't get the sense that she's in over her head with Alondra. I like her to win. In what is another chapter in the Mexico versus Puerto Rico rivalry, an angle that is often played up in boxing, that long-standing rivalry. This fight, though, is not happening on the same scale, same level as, say, Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Trinidad or Canelo versus Cotto, but it is another entry into that book, that saga. I like Kroll to win. I like Kroll to win a points decision. This girl's never been knocked out, so she's pretty tough. Kroll's fast and athletic. I wouldn't say she's the strongest of punchers, though. She does have a mean streak, and she does like to mix it up mid-range to inside, though I wouldn't call her a knockout merchant, so a points decision seems logical. Kroll on points is the pick. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, our continued coverage of all this past weekend's action in the men's junior middleweight division, Charles Conwell dominates Kroll, scores a 9th-round TKO stoppage, motivated by his unforeseen first professional loss. Conwell returned from a long layoff in championship form Saturday night and dominated former USA Boxing teammate Paul Kroll. Paul kind of looks like James Kirkland with a better hairline. Kind of looks like James Kirkland and Demetrius Andrade at the same time. In their junior middleweight match on the Lamont Roach Jr. versus William Zepeda undercard at Virgin Hotels in Vegas, Cleveland's Conwell, 22-1 with 17 knockouts, dropped Kroll in the 3rd and hurt him again with a body shot in the 9th. when referee Robert Hoyle stopped their scheduled 10-round bout because Kroll was taking too much punishment. The official time of the stoppage was 2 minutes and 38 seconds left in the ninth. Philadelphia's Kroll, 31, suffered his first professional loss, 12-1 with 2 draws and 8 knockouts. "I'm back," Conwell told his own TNT announcer Chris Mannix in the ring. "It's been a long time coming. It felt good to be back in the ring. I'm excited. It was a good fight." The 28-year-old Conwell, a 2016 U.S. Olympian, lost a 12-round split decision to Mexican underdog Jorge Garcia in his prior appearance, a 12-round bout in April of last year at the Front Wave Arena in Oceanside, California. By the ocean. Garcia later fought Xander Zayas for a then-vacant WBO junior middleweight title in his following fight. Just the type of championship opportunity Conwell was on the cusp of earning before he admittedly took Garcia lightly. Conwell was the stronger, sharper fighter from the opening bell against Kroll, a decorated amateur who has been inconsistent in the professional ranks. He landed the harder punches and caused Kroll to hold during the first 2 rounds before he caught Kroll with a left hook that knocked him backward into the ropes at exactly the midway mark of the 3rd round. Hoyle counted a knockdown for Conwell because the ropes kept Kroll from falling to the canvas. That marked the first knockdown of Kroll's pro career and was an indication of what was to come. Conwell completely controlled the action thereafter and eventually hurt Kroll again with a left hook to the body in the middle minute of the 9th. A fatigued Kroll stayed on his feet and tried to make it to the 10th round, but Hoyle thought he was taking too much punishment and stepped between them. Paul Kroll did not contest the stoppage. "I still got a lot to work on," Conwell said. 16 months off from the ring, and I think I still did pretty good. I'm ready to go back to the gym, get better, and work on what's next. Charles Conwell, sort of an under-promoted fighter over there at Golden Boy Promotions, but fun to watch whenever you can watch him. Best described as a pocket-sized pressure fighter. He's right there in the same division as Virgil Ortiz, who gets a stronger push from the promotional outfit than Charles Conwell ever did. They're both pressure guys. They're both action guys. Oddly enough, a fight between them is never really a conversation, and it still isn't. Divide and conquer. Golden Boy Promotions figures, why have 2 of our own guys kill each other when we can sick them on everybody else? Love a good pressure fighter. Pressure fighters really are the unsung heroes of the sport of boxing because whether they win or they lose, they make the fights exciting by pushing the pace, making it a fight. It's the easiest base style for both the hardcore and the casual alike to digest. Yes, pressure fighters are a big part of what makes boxing fun. What should be next for Charles Conwell now that he's back? There's definitely some things for Charles Conwell to work on, as was evident in his lone defeat to Jorge Garcia. Because of the way Jorge beat him, Jorge was a noticeably taller, longer fighter than Charles, and he used that to his advantage by getting on his toes and moving around, putting distance between himself and Charles. So one thing Charles needs to work on is cutting off the ring. You hear it all the time. To make it a very small place for the opponent, you have to cut them off. Cut off their exits. Charles is a very moderately sized junior middleweight on the much smaller end of the spectrum. It doesn't have to be a handicap, though, that smaller stature. Being a shorter, stumpier, stockier fighter is something he can use to his advantage by making himself a small target, even though he's the one who's often barreling forward, changing levels, bobbing and weaving, making for a tricky target. Just because you're the guy coming forward doesn't mean you have to get hit coming through the front door. Even among pressure fighters, which is probably the most offensive-based style of the 3, there are ways to improve your methods. Improve your defense, head movement, upper body movement, changing levels, using angles. All of which you can use while coming forward and applying pressure, using pivots. Hit that pivot and change the angle of attack on a guy, suddenly there are going to be openings there. Catching and countering out of the high guard, slipping and countering. Who should he fight next? The name of Brendan Adams almost immediately came to mind. Another pocket-sized, mid-range to inside fighter who's got a lot of experience. I think that Charles is at a point where he needs to start fighting people that are going to get him ready to challenge for an alphabet title. Enough fighting just to fight. Fighting who's around. You need to be aiming for something. So I could go for a Brandon Adams fight. I could go for an Israel Madrimov fight, assuming Israel is still in the junior middleweight division, the former champion.
Don't think those fights are a little bit risky?
I do, but that's the point. He's got to start fighting those guys, those somebodies at 154, so he can, in effect, become a somebody at 154. Why do you think they don't talk about this guy more? Junior middleweight division is one of the deepest and most talked about divisions in all of boxing. Simultaneously, Charles is one of the least talked about fighters there. There's a reason for that. Who you fighting? It's got a lot to do with it. Now that you're back and you've had your tune-up fight, things need to get serious. Men's heavyweight news. Does he even belong in the ring right now? Lennox Lewis questions Joshua before the Tyson-Fury showdown. The manner of his frantic recovery win has left more questions than answers, as a collision course between the former heavyweight champions between him and Fury remains the plan later this year. Yet that display did little to dissuade Hall of Fame legend Lennox Lewis from his longtime belief about who would prevail should they eventually meet. The former three-time heavyweight champion watched from Hanover, Jamaica, where his League of Champions Foundation runs annual youth summer camps. I think Fury boxes to the level of his opposition, Lewis told The Ring. He's trying to keep sharp for AJ, the right thing to do, and needed to have a tick-over fight. Him having some rounds in his legs is what he wanted and did. So just a warm-up for another future fight. Fury banked 7 rounds against faded former title challenger Marius Vach in Pattaya, Thailand, before the Polish veteran retired on his stool. Little more than 24 hours later, it was anything but straightforward as expected for Joshua. Still finding his feet in a new training camp, having survived a car accident tragically killing 2 close friends on December 29th, Lewis wonders whether boxing is the best place for him right now. Does he really belong in the ring right now? Lewis questioned. A virtual novice put him on the ground twice in the first round. Is that it? Have we seen the last of him? It's not like he's his old self. A long-mooted matchup between the two juggernauts didn't materialize during their respective primes for many reasons, and while past its sell-by date, it's now targeted for November.
On that, I will agree that Joshua versus Fury as a fight has now entered Khan versus Brook territory, and we all know that by the time those two domestic rivals finally fought, they were just shells of their former selves.
Like Fury and AJ.
Obviously, this has turned into a money thing, Lewis continued. The fight should have happened years ago, but they want to make the fight and still can make some money out of it. You can't say either is at their best now.
Maybe not. But a lot of the time when the big-time boxing matches happen in boxing, one or both guys ain't at their best. People say that about Floyd and Manny. They say that about Crawford and Errol.
Crawford and Canelo.
So why should that stop Joshua and Fury from coming together, beating each other up, and making some money in the process? I feel like whenever Anthony Joshua is involved, people often go to extremes.
I'll give you an example.
While it is true that Anthony Joshua was floored in the first round by a club-level fighter in Christian Pringa, and that's not a good look, something similar happened to Tyson Fury, and when it did, the reactions were quite different. Remember, when Tyson Fury was floored by Francis Ngannou in what was their crossover fight, and Francis Ngannou, compared to Christian Pringa, was a lot less experienced in a boxing ring.
Wasn't a good look either.
But here's where people treated it differently, because after that lackluster showing with Francis, you still had a lot of people picking Tyson Fury to beat Alexander Usyk. You didn't see anybody asking, should Tyson Fury still be in a boxing ring, even though he stunk out the joint with a guy who never had a boxing match?
To see where the attitudes are different?
I would say that Tyson Fury being dropped by Francis Ngannou is just as bad as Anthony Joshua being dropped by Christian Pringa, but it's treated completely different, because whenever AJ is involved, people go to extremes. Definitely, Lennox Lewis continued. Fury is closer, but both are shadows of their former selves. I'd side with Fury.
Of course you would, Lennox. You've been taking shots at AJ for years.
He showed me more in his 2 fights with Arslanbek Makhmudov than Joshua has recently. He boxed a YouTuber in Jake Paul, now boxed the guy who knocked him down twice, then next faces Fury. That's a big step up.
I think a lot of people out there are of a similar mindset to Lennox Lewis, but that doesn't take away from the point that whenever AJ is involved, people go to extremes. That he's got to get out there and look perfect. Otherwise, they're going to jump all over him.
Perfect.
No, I don't think it was a good look that he labored in the first round of the Christian Prenga fight, the same way I didn't think it was a good look that Fury labored in the Francis Ngannou fight. Both of those fights were fights that they were favored to win, but it didn't go according to the script.
Sometimes that happens. The people in boxing, most of all, should be used to it by now.
Saw Simon Jordan, who's always been critical of Anthony Joshua, theorizing that the fix was in.
More extremes.
Simon didn't believe his eyes that how could Christian Prenga go from being a killer in the first round to as docile as a Hindu cow in the second?
More extremes.
To which my old dry cleaner, Adam Abramovitz, responded, I want you to fix a fight. But first knock him down twice, but make sure you knock him down in ways that'll get up again. Does anyone actually consider how ridiculous that sounds? I mean, use what's left of your critical thinking faculties!
So then, how do you explain it?
How I explain it? Anthony Joshua wanted to take his time with this guy. He wanted to work on things under the hot lights that they'd been working on in the gym, whereas Christian wanted to get off to a fast start. He knew the size of this opportunity, that he may not get another one, so he chose to jump all over the guy. That's all it was. He forced AJ to go after him.
But that wasn't the original plan. So you figure that if Anthony Joshua's going in there with a mindset that he's gonna carry the guy for a few rounds, he's not gonna try to kill him quick.
He's relaxed. Maybe a little bit too relaxed. Too lackadaisical. Whereas Christian Prenga, he wants to maul the guy right away.
No conspiracy theories necessary.
Scenario just like this one was popularized in the pop culture classic Rocky, where Apollo Creed gets some ham and egger from Philadelphia.
Apollo being a world champion, a world-class boxer, and Rocky being a club fighter from Philly.
The basic idea was that the same event represented two different things to two different people from two different walks of life. And it was the same for AJ and Christian.
No conspiracy theories necessary. The fix, as it were, doesn't have to be in, Simon.
Shit happens. Unexpected shit. Especially in the heavyweight division where you're always one punch away from being knocked out, whether you're a former champion or a club fighter.
Maybe that's the necessary recalibration that Anthony Joshua needed ahead of a big fight with his longtime rival Tyson Fury. That you need to be on your P's and Q's. You need to be on your toes, because anybody from a world-class boxer to a club fighter can put you down if your eyes aren't on the ball.
Fell asleep at the wheel with Christian Prenga for 1 second, one split second. You see what happened. So that better not happen with Tyson Fury in November. And this is going to sound strange, but I don't read too much into what happened in the Prenga fight.
I don't think it's a big deal.
It may not have any bearing on what version of AJ shows up for Fury, because with Fury, it's a completely different feel, a completely different stage. There's no relaxing, no taking your eyes off the ball.
I think there's a lot of people like Lennox Lewis who have always had a lot of things to say about AJ. Most of them not so nice. So whenever an opportunity presents itself, you just get more of the same.
And from the same people, shock and awe that Lennox is going with Fury to win. Shock and awe.
Simon Jordan saying something similar. Gee, I would have never expected that coming from them.
How's about? We just let the two fucking guys fight, irrespective of where they are now. They're both active. They're getting ready for each other.
You want to tell the story for them.
When all you really gotta do is sit back, grab the popcorn, and enjoy the show.